It's late night and you're getting tired. So you go to lock up for the evening when all of a sudden you hear woo, 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 and gunshots. I know this because this is what I heard and seen while growing up in a small town called East St. Louis, Illinois. I lived in East St. for about 14 years of my life, my entire teenage years. Now these years are the years when a child decides what they want to do and how they're going to go about getting it done. Now when you're hearing gunshots and police sirens, you ask yourself, is this a good city to grow up in? Good city to raise my kid? I know a few of you out there grew up in an environment and a situation exactly like this one. Now, although we may hear police sirens and gunshots or hear horrible stories about someone being killed or the negativity that they portray on the city from the news and everything, there is a rare beauty that is to my city. But you can only see that by either living there or being from there. Please don't judge my city until you hear me at the very end. Now, I don't like ending on a bad note, so I'm going to start off with the ugly. This video that I'm about to show you will portray a normal night in East St. Louis. Now, when I say a normal night, it's just a typical night of what people do when they go out. As you can see in this video, there's nothing alarming, nothing going on. It's a normal night. A few guys walking to the store, it looks like a gas station, and out of nowhere, gunshots blazing. They shooting at somebody, something's going on. Now, you ask yourself, how can somebody just walk up and start shooting at somebody in the middle of the day or middle of the evening and nobody hears it, nothing going on? Not even that, it's a gas station. Now, that's the ugly when it comes to my city. Now, city manager, because East St. Louis don't have a mayor, has a city manager. Calvin Park said at a luncheon in 2015, and I quote, "This city will never know its true glory and potential until we put an end to all this useless violence," end quote. Now, this is coming from the city manager, aka the mayor, however you want to frame him, from in 2015. Now, East St. Louis is a small city. Compared to other cities the same size of it, is the murder capital in the entire United States. And I'm not talking about cities such as Chicago or Springfield, none of the big cities, but the smaller cities, including the Chicago suburbs. Compared to East St. Louis is the murder capital. Now, this information is coming from an article published in a Belleville News Democrat called Little City, Big Problem, article in 2014, written by James Lindenberg. Excuse me. Now, you can't go from ugly to good. That's just something that you just can't do. You can't get away from that. Now, but this next slide will show you just how a normal night can get turned into something deadly without a lot happening. Now, as you can see, like I said, East St. Louis, 24,000 inhabitants, 24,000 citizens within the city, but there's only 45 police officers. Now, how can you have a city secured with only 45 police officers when you have to secure 24,000 citizens? Now, that's an estimate based on, the numbers that they do for every city. Now, mind you, it's a normal day, normal stuff, normal things happen, but one murder every hour and a half and nothing going on, that's not a normal night. That's some bad stuff going on in a city like that. It has 8 schools, 24,000 citizens, roughly. 3 elementaries, 3 middle schools, and 2 high schools. Now, not a lot of schools, not a lot of protection. You think this is a horrible place to raise my kid, right? It could be, because I grew up there. Like I said, I grew up there. I know how rough it can be. I was walking to school one day with my sisters and my cousin, and a guy that we knew started shooting at another person down the alley 100 feet behind us. With 45 police officers, you think he got caught? No, he didn't. But how can you police somebody when you're a crooked cop yourself? Now, according to my former junior high school teacher, Mrs. Nelson, she said this during a school board meeting in 1998 when I was going through middle school. And I quote, "How can we teach our kids if we can't guarantee they make it to school?" End quote. That's a valid point. If you can't make it to school, how can you get any teaching, anything done? How can a student want to get out to go to school when they don't know if they're gonna be safe to get there or not? When the police is crooked, police said the middle school is impregnating teenagers. How could they follow suit from something they don't understand? Now, I say that because according to CBSNews.com, former police chief pleads guilty to a misdemeanor theft and gets 7 felonies dropped in exchange for cooperation with police on a theft case, end quote. Now, if you're a leader and you getting all this information and all these things and you corrupt, how you think someone under you is going to do? It's like the principal of a school saying, yes, let's go ahead and teach these kids, but I'm not going to teach them a thing and expect the teachers to do it. That's just not how things work. Now, you're asking yourself, how is this a good place to raise a kid? Well, if you look at it from that point of view, it's not. But there's a rare beauty to my city, like I said. Showed you bad, showed you the ugly. Now let me show you some good. Now, on this next slide, you will see out of 50,000 nationwide, there's one 11th grader from East St. Louis that made it to the finals in this math competition. Now, with 2 high schools with 24,000 citizens, one 11th grader beat out 50,000 others. 50,000 others. Now, can you imagine that? I had 2,000 kids in my school, in my class. My graduating class was huge. And the 11th grader did that. The graduation rate from when I was there went from 36 to now it's 75%, which is one off the state average. Now, like I told you, there's a lot of good that goes on in my city. A lot of good. Not just academically, which, let me tell you this, according to collegescholarshipsaward.com, East St. Louis is among the top 25 high schools with students receiving scholarships. Now, a small town like East St. Louis, and you have over, 50, 60, or 100 big cities in the nation, East St. Louis is in the top 25. In the top 25. Now, if that's not a good, I don't know what is. Academic scholarships are being handed out like candy down there, and those kids nowadays are eating it up. They are eating it up. And why wouldn't they? I didn't have AP classes. I didn't have honor classes when I was in East St. Louis. We asked for them. We begged for them, but we couldn't get them because we didn't have the funding. Well, now that they have the funding, those kids are going all in. They are going all in, which gives kudos to the parents that's raising the kids down there. The communities that's so core to this city that no one sees it out here. They don't see it out here. They have to be here to see it. And what I mean by that is I couldn't get away with nothing as a kid because my neighbors knew my mom and they would crack my skull before they even got me to my mama to bust my head open. This is just how it was back when I was growing up. Those communities is the communities that I want to raise my kids in to this day. To this day. If you know my kid is acting up, let me know. Come get me. Or put them in a place where they need to be and then let me know so I can finish doing what you started. That's how I was raised. That's how I made it out of a bad situation if you want to look at it like that. Now, I said all this without even mentioning the best thing about East St. Louis, which is sports. Who don't love sports? Few people. Nobody in East St. Louis. None of them people living in East St. Louis because East St. Louis is a sports haven. I say that because last year, East St. Louis high school football team won its 8th state championship. 8th state championship. And according to St. Louis Today, and I quote, East St. Louis dominant in winning programs' 8th state championship, end quote. Dominant. That is not a phrase you hear often when putting East St. Louis behind it and comparing it, saying they did that to someone else. That is not something you hear every day. Because you hear all that ugly, all that bad, all that negativity when it comes to my city. I love East St. because that is the core, that's the true beauty when it comes to it. And it's not only are they getting sports scholarship, there are a lot of famous sports people that came from East St. Louis that a lot of people don't even pay attention to. Jackie Joyner Kersee, Darius Miles, Brian Cox. That's just to name a few. A few. Jackie Joyner-Kersee is an Olympic gold medalist. Darius Miles was the #1 overall draft pick to the NBA. Brian Cox is a 2-time Super Bowl champion in the NFL. In the NFL. Coming from East St. Louis, a small city named East St. Louis. Now, the future is bright. My city can backslide at any moment. It can. It can go back to all the negativities and its tumultuous ways. But when I hear it, it gives me hope when I hear something like this. And I'm not going to play the entirety of this video. I just want you to hear a little portion of this video compared to what I went through.
And look at you now. What about you, Asa?
Well, when I first got to St. High, they didn't really have a P class. And I wanted to take classes, so I asked all the teachers. And eventually, when we got to senior year, they just started a whole program versus all the kids. Like, it was only 30 or so kids taking the test last year, and this year it's almost 300.
That is awesome. And when you see progress like...
Did you hear what he said? Almost 300 now from 30 students when he started on there. Now he's a senior and there's almost 300 taking this test. I didn't have it. They didn't give it to us. But now they do. So when you hear woo, 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 or gunshots when you laying down at night and you not so worried about it, is that you being too cautious? It's easy to see why there's some bad news associated with my city. But it's a little less hard to see why we love it so much now, right? Why we don't believe everything that is said negative about East St. Louis and why we defended this horrible city. This horrible city. I know all my ghetto and hood students understand where I'm coming from right now. It didn't take me all my life to see the true beauty that is in my city, but it took for me to stop, listen, and see exactly what my city was offering and the true beauty that is East St. Louis. And when you're talking about East St. Louis in a negative way, just remember this. Please remember this. With every dark, there is a light. Thank you.